There we go. Oh, there's Van.
There's Sue, Van.
There's Van and Sue. Hi, Van and Sue. Coming to us from TV Land.
Hello.
Sue.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Well, I appreciate the invitation to be here this morning. My name is Ketty Cusick, and my role at University of West Georgia currently I have the title of Interim Executive Director of Development, which is just a long title for I work on behalf of the UWG Foundation, which is the nonprofit entity of the university to work with donors, friends, alumni on their philanthropic wishes for the university. So I will kind of start this presentation just with sharing that 75% of what I do is working with those donors and alumni and friends and helping them rediscover West Georgia, speak to students, find out the mission of the University of West Georgia, and really get to become, have that aligned with their value system. And then 25% of what I do is actually kind of the semantics, the vehicles of giving that actually honor their wishes. So the good thing is you're all here. So the 75% of the work is done. And we're going to cover some of the semantics today, but I will just share that, you know, it's a lot of information. We're going to go through a lot of the basics, but I always encourage donors to speak with your financial planner, you know, speak with your person if you have any additional specific questions that I cannot answer. This document is going to help us follow along, and everyone should have one. We'll email it out afterwards because there's a lot of hyperlinks in here if you want more information on specific areas. Okay, so we're going to cover basics, but there's more in here. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so we're going to cover a couple things today. Why make a legacy gift, defining a legacy gift, the background and context for what people are calling the great wealth transfer, the vehicles of legacy giving, and then open it up for questions or anybody has anything that they would like to discuss further. So why make a legacy gift? Just like we were talking a minute ago about how important it is to have all of your affairs in order for your funeral arrangements, for your service, for all of those other details, I also feel it's a responsibility for all of us to have these plans in place as well. So that way there's no discussion, everything is laid out for anybody who might have to enact your wishes after you go. So I just share that because I think I appreciate being part of this series, but I think it's just as important as all the others in making plans. So the first thing is you get to cement your legacy. You get to leave behind what mattered most to you in this life and through philanthropic gift. There's tax breaks associated with estate planning. Some states have up to 40% tax on estates. Georgia's not one of them, but there are anywhere from 18 to 40% of taxes that most estates face. They give you the option to designate your gift. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that means. For example, Father Jeff probably doesn't want you to leave us a petting zoo or, you know, things to that nature, but we can talk a little bit more about what those things are, how you can designate. And then another big reason a lot of people want to make a legacy gift is it's their best gift. So I hear from donors all the time that, you know, they're concerned about end of life care. They're concerned about how long they will live. They're concerned about not burdening their, you know, children with making a gift now. And so the ability of a legacy gift is all of those things are already taken care of. And then you can still have something you leave behind to create a legacy from there. The benefits to a nonprofit. So it's additional revenue sources. UWG, our foundation, we get about 1/3 of all of our gifts from legacy gifts at the university. So you can think about what that means long-term, that you get, anticipate knowing what's coming and knowing kind of you have this in addition to what you get in normal annual giving. You can create or build to an endowment. So I think endowments are just one of the most wonderful philanthropic opportunities because they continue to support during COVID, recessions, whatever the, you know, the possibility of revenue stream being interrupted may be. So we can talk about that a little bit. It deepens the connection with donors. So just like Brenda's gift was so wonderful, that may inspire others to consider giving, because then you have a community of those who are all investing into something that matters to all of you. And then it broadens your donor base. So for example, we're going to talk in a minute about the difference of cash giving versus legacy giving. And just like it allows you to make your best gift, it just gives another way for people to feel like they're supporting investing when cash may not be an option in the here and now. Okay, defining a legacy gift. So a planned gift, I've used these terms kind of interchangeably in my world, but a planned gift is any charitable contribution planned now to be made later. So you can do a gift pledge over several years. You can do, you know, when I retire, I'm going to make this gift, Ketty. That's kind of what a planned gift is. Legacy gifts then set up your intentions for when you pass away in your will, in your estate plan, where the money is to go. So again, very clear for transparency purposes for your heirs and everyone to know what your wishes were. Okay, so this is, I did steal this slide, so sorry, that looks different from the others, but I will just say that I want us to think about this. So in 2020, $141 billion was willed to charities. However, currently 7% of US wealth is held in cash, 7%. But cash makes up 85% of charitable gifts. So think about that context for a minute. How much additional gifts could be made through legacy giving through assets being transferred other than cash? 93% of wealth is in non-cash assets. And then cash gifts draw from the smaller bucket. So again, you can make your best gift often through a legacy gift because you're not just giving with cash. Any questions on that? You have that context? Okay. The great wealth transfer. So baby boomers are on record the wealthiest generation in American history. They have, in the next 25 years, there is an expected $68 trillion that is going to be transferred from one generation to the next. And so with that comes a lot of opportunity for people that may be considering a legacy gift. Yes, you want to take care of your heirs and whatnot, but there could be an opportunity to do a legacy gift through this great wealth transfer. So why this matters to charities. So if 5% of that great wealth transfer donated charities, that would be equal to $9 trillion, equal to 10 Gates foundations. So that is, there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of charities and nonprofits are having these conversations with their donor base because it is something that not many people are aware of, that this is going to occur over the next 25 years. Okay, so now we'll get into kind of some of the vehicles of legacy giving. So how you can actually make your gift. So bequests, a lot of people obviously know about bequests, and we're going to jump into a couple of different ones of those. Charitable gift annuities, life insurance, retirement asset gifts, retained life estate gifts, and then more. So let's start with bequests. So bequests are, and this is where you can follow along, I think it's page 2 on this one for types of bequests. So a bequest is basically in your will, you being the donor, would designate St. Margaret's or whatever charity you choose to receive a gift. In addition, your family heirs also receive part of your will. So basically how your will is broken up. So there's lots of different, you can keep it right here, Father Jeff. Oh yeah, you can turn to that one. Yeah, that's good. So lots of different types of bequests. So some, it's a general bequest, specific dollar amount. There's specific requests. So we have this running joke at UWG that one of the gifts that I worked with the donor on is his banjo collection. And at first our vice president was like, absolutely not, Ketty. Are you serious? Like, what are we going to do with this gentleman's banjo collection? But in actuality, he is the Virginia Folk Music President Association. And so these are banjos from the 1920s and 30s that are valued at $120,000. And so then it was a much different conversation about us receiving the banjos, because we keep them for a period of about 3 years on display, and then we sell them. They may not be valued at that by then, we'll just see, but they go to music scholarships. And so there is a new, I think the vestry passed it last week, the gift acceptance policy. And so there is a new policy with that the vestry passed that the Finance Commission worked on called the gift acceptance policy. And that is just kind of covers the church about if someone were to come and say, you know, I have swampland in South Georgia, we've been offered all kinds of various things. And so we just want to be mindful of that it's something that will bring value and add to the mission of St. Margaret's. So that's what specific bequests are. So that would be security, stock would be considered a specific bequest, property, art, etc. All right, demonstrative bequests, that is how the instruction for how the gift should be used and where it should be drawn from. You have percentage bequests. So basically, if you wanted to say I'm giving 10% of my entire estate to St. Margaret's, or you know, whoever would make sense for you and your wishes. Residuary bequests. So we have those that often happen at West Georgia, like Ketty. Once everybody else gets paid, I'll give West Georgia the rest. And so in my bequest, I've set up where everybody else is going to get the money first. And then if there's anything left, that'll go to UWG. Contingent bequests, and that is basically specific conditions that must be met in order for the distribution of the gift. For example, University of West Georgia Foundation must still exist. So those kinds of things could be put in. How to make a charitable bequest. So basically you would sit down with your estate planning attorney and designate language similar to this to insert whatever nonprofit and what manner of bequest you're choosing to make, whether it's specific, percentage, how, you know, whether it's stock, cash, whatever you choose to have made. Okay, charitable gift annuities. So charitable gift annuities are, we have, I think, two. I was talking to George, I think we have two at UWG Foundation. It's where a donor signs an agreement with a charity. And in this case, I know Father Jeff and I talked about this, you would probably do it at a financial, like banking institution. You would give the gift to the financial banking institution, but then they would give you an income for the rest of your life. And then upon your passing, the charity gets the residual of whatever that invested fund is. So that's kind of how a charitable gift annuity works. And it's really advantageous because you get a tax break when you give the initial gift now. And then you also receive income for the rest of your life. And then it still benefits the organization. There's also ones in this factor, like the one we have at UWG is the donor gave it to UWG, but then their son or daughter, it's called like a secondary charitable gift annuity, their son or daughter gets the income for the rest of their life. And then when they pass, the whole investment goes to UWG. So there's different stages you can set up for charitable gift annuity. Gift of life insurance. Many people are kind of familiar with the gift of life insurance. There is a couple different ways you can do charitable life insurance. One is a charitable benefit rider. So basically adding a percentage to your total policy that would go to University of West Georgia, or sorry, I keep saying that, or St. Margaret's, sorry, Father Jeff. Policy donation. So gifting an existing policy, you have an existing policy that you want to change the beneficiary of. That would be a policy donation. And then kind of the third option is naming and like creating a new policy that would benefit University of West Georgia. And there's lots of benefits to that because for many of them, the premiums that you pay are taxed. You can write them off on your taxes too for a life insurance policy that you have. And a lot of our donors like life insurance policy because it doesn't touch any of your other assets, right? Like you can still have your home, your property, your retirement, all those things designated to your family. And this whole separate policy here is what would go to the nonprofit. So it kind of splits things so people feel safe that my heirs are going to get everything I planned. This is just how I'm going to make my gift on the side is through this life insurance policy. And this just covers it here. So you name, I stole this from the other nonprofit. So name whoever as the owner, and then the policy goes to their mission. And then again, you may be eligible for a tax break while you're living for that life insurance premium. Okay, retirement asset gifts. So this was just an example of, as we all know, just like endowments, your retirement account hopefully grows over time, and then you have that for retirement. And sometimes we have We all know about, well, may not know that, about required minimum distributions you make at a certain age now. There's also, you can designate, just like a bequest, any type of percentage or all or half or some of your retirement asset to a nonprofit like St. Margaret. So that's just another way to do that. Next slide, please. Retained life estate gift. So this is where you would take your home or motorhome or a second home or tiny house or whatever kind of property that you own. You would gift it to a nonprofit. You would maintain residency in your home. You'd have to pay taxes. You'd have to maintain the property, but you receive the tax benefit of gifting. And then when you pass, the home, the property, the motorhome, the yacht, whatever, would go to the nonprofit as another gift. And so this is sometimes advantageous for people that know my children are not going to want this house, this whatever this is that I have for property. And so therefore I can do a really good thing with it by giving it to a nonprofit and still maintain residency of it and get the tax benefit of that.
And that's the kind of thing right there that you would want to have a conversation with that organization about
Correct.
before you just do it, and then they're left with your
The cabin, or the
yeah,
swampland
yeah.
in South Georgia. Okay, frequently asked questions. After making a retained life and estate donation, can I move out of the house and move back in? Yes, the use of your home is at your discretion during your lifetime. If I have a retained life estate donation, what happens if I move out of the property for good? And this is where you have to check because it depends on the provisions you negotiated. So again, if you decide that that's the avenue that you're interested in, you would have to work with St. Margaret's to set up kind of what those terms would be. And then can you change a bequest? Yes, you normally can change a bequest. There's different types of bequests that are called irrevocable, which means you do not change it, versus revocable, which means you can decide at a later time if you need those funds, you're changing your intentions and you're taking the gift back. So that's basically what irrevocable and revocable mean. Okay, how and where to leave your legacy? So one, any nonprofit is going to tell you that an outright gift is always the best gift. We love, George Kelly shared a story about a church he worked with in Florida that had a donor leave $1 million for their Sunday school program, which is great, but that's a lot of money every year that they had to get out the door for Sunday school. And that they would have a struggle really every year kind of finding how to use up to $50,000 for Sunday school. So I just share that and saying any nonprofit's going to tell you just an outright, I give St. Margaret's a gift, period, is what they would prefer. There is a way that you can work with the nonprofit to establish an endowment that will be created through the gift. So, or add to an existing endowment that we have here at St. Margaret. So that's another way that I consider that like a multiplier, because you give the gift, but then it keeps being invested in giving for perpetuity. So that's a really long-term way to create an impact. Like Father Jeff said, it's really important to share your intentions with the nonprofit that you are looking to create this legacy gift for. And that's for a couple reasons. One is, the swampland in South Georgia. And then two, we've had gifts come. There's a nursing scholarship at the foundation that, they give out 50 scholarships every year to nursing students. And every year the nursing students write lovely thank you letters, to thank the donor, but we don't have contact with the donor. So we've searched, we've contacted like probate all over the state of Georgia, and then there's just no way surely there's someone living from that person who created that would like to read those letters. So that's no reason I just say to please make sure you it can be total confidence, just have the conversation about what your intentions are. And then remember that namings are typically not an option. We get this question a lot. So Ketty, if I give, $100,000 to the foundation, can you make sure that my name goes on that classroom in the biology building? And while I want to say yes, the reality is I don't know if that biology building is going to be still standing there when, that gift is realized. So oftentimes naming a scholarship endowment or naming a programmatic endowment or lecture series or something that, we can kind of guarantee we can honor, like in whenever years is fine, but actually like physical namings are usually a no-go that we have. And that's just because over time things can happen. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information that was kind of shared with you in lecture style, but what questions does everybody have about legacy giving? Or just kind of any of these vehicles of giving in general? Yes.
You mentioned something about a gift policy that the church has. Is that something fairly new? And if a gift is given, as a request or a legacy or something, there's no guarantee that that particular item that's given will be kept. It most likely will be sold and the cash used for whatever things they need, right?
Yeah, so we, for example, like if it's like for stock that we or securities that we receive, we usually sell within 3 days. So whatever the value is at that point. The gift acceptance policy is new and we can share it with everybody that wants to see it. It basically outlines.
It'll be in the minutes of our last meeting, which was last week.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Just
And
look for that.
It's basically a one-page document. It doesn't define we will accept this and not this. It basically says that when a gift is received, it must align with the mission of the church and be of value to the church, at that time. And then it also confirms that the church can only give value to a cash gift. So for example, if you give 33 shares of Coca-Cola stock to St. Margaret's, then St. Margaret's can receipt you for 33 shares of Coca-Cola stock, but will not receipt you for the cash for that. And that's just standard like accounting policies that exist. Because, for example, if Corey and I gave our house to St. Margaret's and we say it's worth 200,000 and then the church actually sells it for 120,000, like there's really difference in value there. So that's why the church would say Corey and Ketty Cusick gave their house at 339 Kramer Street to St. Margaret's. And so that's also defined in the gift acceptance policy, but it's just really just a one pager, basically kind of protecting the church and creating some transparency between what is going to be of value and what will help the church. Does that help answer your question, Marilyn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the diocese have any input in how the church disposes of these gifts?
Yes.
Sale, like
Well-
stock in particular?
Well, no, not those kind of gifts. Buildings, any assets that we would acquire, they would have, because again, like, we were given this house, but it becomes part of our property, which we don't own. We hold in trust with the diocese. The diocese owns all of our buildings. So in that way, there would be a conversation with that. And even though we have a gift acceptance policy, if an asset like a house was given, that would have to go through the diocese. Even if we decided we wanted to accept it, we would still have to go through the diocese to get that. But not any other gifts like stocks or anything like that.
Okay.
So if the diocese wanted you to liquidate the house and just take that cash, is the church responsible for selling the house?
Yes, I believe so. And there would be a lot of contingencies there, but I mean, it would really depend on what the property was and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And normally, like for West Georgia, we would just hire a real estate agent to handle that and then take the cost of the real estate
That's right.
agent out of the final sale.
Right.
20 years ago, 23 years ago, we, and somewhere around, Lacey was on the committee. Yep. And Georgia King was, which is interesting because she's on the finance committee. St. Margaret's, this was what I was trying to remember when we were talking to the chili cook-off. St. Margaret's, started a pooled income trust for, capital improvements. And it was specifically for capital improvements. It was done through Synovus Bank of Columbus. And it did raise some money. I don't know, there may be money in the trust account at Synovus. That's the first thing, but it did raise some significant money that people just gave. I know Warren Pafford gave a very significant amount, and Laura Richards are two that I'm aware of. But the pooled income was set up through this bank, and it was people that could give assets that could turn liquid. You couldn't give your house. You'd have to sell your house, but almost anything you could give. And then Synovus was going to manage the money and pay the income to you or your designee for as long as they live, like grandchildren. Have the income, and then at the end, when you died, if it was to you or your children, then the corpus went to St. Margaret's. I don't know if that's around, but I've got what Georgia sent, which I intend to give to her, and so.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever heard that.
Committee ought to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
23 years,
Wow.
unbelievable.
Any other, any other stones out there that anybody knows about that we need to know about? Yeah, no, but thank you, George. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Just a comment about donating property, that with the intention that property would be sold and the proceeds given to a church. When Randy and I were investigating the disposition of the Bass House, I contacted the diocese and was inquiring about what we need to go through in order to dispose of property should we choose to do so. And it was absolutely ridiculous what you had to go through the diocese in order to dispose of property. So if anyone has property, then, and again, I don't know all the ramifications, but I want to dispose of it and give the cash rather than giving a piece of property.
Agreed.
It's just,
Unless that piece of property is up against our property, I don't see any way that we would be able to use it, right? I mean, maybe we, if the right circumstance was there, but even that, I think you're right, Lacey. I think that the better idea is just to liquidate and give that gift.
Wouldn't the diocese have an option of what they wanted to do with that property? There's no guarantee they want to sell it. They may have another purpose for that property, which may or may not be in line with the wishes of the donor.
Yeah, that's a real kind of what if kind of scenario. I mean, I think that they wouldn't want a gift to be given to us that wasn't going to benefit us, so because they're not gonna use it for I don't know, for any other purpose other than especially if it was here in Carroll County. So yeah.
We're talking about real property, land, homes, that sort of thing. What are the differences between that and personal property? Like your vehicle, contents of the house, that kind of thing.
Do you know the answer to that?
I think it would follow the same where it would just be sold and then the money would go to, that's what we've always been told from like our vice president. It's like, if we need to make sure it's sellable. And then if it is sellable, it would just be sold immediately upon the gift. If we've had art, there's like lots of different things, the banjos are another collection, those sort of things. And that the term is that they're praised for value, and then But there's no guarantee that in 30 years, when the president of the Folk Music Association passes away, it's gonna be worth 120,000. But it'll be sold and put, whatever it is valued at, put towards his intention, which is music scholarships.
Good questions.
Oh. Go ahead, Paul.
Do you have staff that just does valuing of gifts that are given? Or-
So for example, like the value of the banjo collection, he got a banjo appraisal. Someone that could accurately give us value of what that collection was.
He is in the donor?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And then that was kind of earmarked with his documents, because he already has a music scholarship, so it goes with it. When these banjos are sold, it will go to this specific fund in the foundation. But I know it's a lot of information. Hopefully it's gotten your mind thinking about different ways to give besides just cash, which is usually where people kind of normally tend to think. And so, all great questions. I would encourage you all to speak with Father Jeff or speak with your financial planner about if you have any specific questions, but hopefully it's just meant to kind of think about the different ways and the power that really there's some huge, wonderful, amazing things that happen through legacy giving to transform organizations and keep them going after you are gone.
You made reference to the Coca-Cola stock or something like that. But the receiver, the charitable thing, is not interested in the potential dividends that stock might give. They want the cash value immediately.
Yes, ours, it even has it on our website. Like if you give Coca-Cola stock or whatever stock to the UMG Foundation, you'll need to contact Fred and the old Edward Jones because your stock will be sold within 3 days.
Once upon a time, we were under, and I say we, church was under the same dictates that, if they received stock, then it had to be liquidated immediately.
Yes, that's how the UMG Foundation operates. We don't maintain or retain any of that. It's immediately sold and the cash value is applied to whoever the donor has intended.
Also, if you have we have kind of a running list, kind of a wish list, particularly of like liturgical items and things like that could be used, that we kind of want in the future, or if our current stuff is getting, old and needs to be retired. So that's another way, that's just another thing to do if you have any interest about what that list might look like and what you might want to give, like, in memory of someone, a chasuble or a stole or a hanging, or, we have kind of a running list for those kind of things too. So if you have any specific things or any other specific things around the church that you have questions about, that you might think, I'd love to see that done, but I don't know if that's kind of in the thinking of the parish, just like come have a conversation with us about it, and we can figure out, if that's something. Now, if you're saying something like, oh, I want to make sure that we have a baptistry in the nave, that one's probably not going to make the list. But again, things that are kind of in keeping with who we are as an Episcopal church, those kind of gifts are always welcome as well. So, yeah.
Ketty, something else that you might want to add is, you mentioned the retirement like an IRA distribution. Anyone doing that would benefit by having that go through whoever their financial advisor is, and let them recommend it being not a check coming to them and then going to the
Correct.
church, but the check going directly to the church for tax purposes.
Correct. And that is, we receive a lot of RMDs at UWG Foundation and sometimes people are not aware of that step. So that is important, that it has to go from the IRA to the nonprofit. If it hits your hands, it's taxed. And so it has to go straight through to the nonprofit. But it is a great way to avoid paying taxes and also to help out your organization, so.
Which mentioned the links in the document so that they'll know.
Yes. So the reason I printed this in color is because you'll see there's lots of blue language in here. And you'll notice at the end, I did give credit, but there's a lot of, I just copied basically what was on other websites. And so with that, you can take a deeper dive into any of these, where you see they're highlighted in blue because they're links to go to other sites about various specific things within these areas. So I will add this document to the email that goes out following, so that way you can go through and learn more. And also remember too, a lot of things vary by state, so keep that in mind too. But thank y'all.
So, question about the hyperlinks, like you've got tax benefits. We don't know what that is, but it's one of the references or resources.
Correct. So you just click on that link.
So there's 3 of them. There are 3 of them.
Yes. So you would just click on that link and it would take you to a website that would have further information about tax benefits, about retained life estate donations, about revocable beneficiaries. So anywhere you see it highlighted in blue, that's a website. You click on that blue language, and it'll take you to another website.
Yeah, but we can't click on it since it's not.
We're gonna send it out. We're gonna
Oh.
send it out after this. Yeah. You can click on it all day. This damn thing doesn't work. Yeah, we'll send it to you.
I shared this presentation with some people I trust, and there was a little wordy on the screen, and so that's why I went with the highlights, but had this so y'all could follow along.
Right.
So.
Good. Anything else? Well, next week, just remember, Kenya Thompson is going to be our guest celebrant and preacher, because I will be with the J2A group in Nashville for our urban adventure. And she's going to lead the forum next week on work that she does with both Emmaus House and Church of the Common Ground. Those are 2 really big ministries in our diocese, and you may want to know, part of our diocesan assessment goes to that work that's being done on our behalf. So you're going to hear about what Kenya does and what those ministries are up to and what their needs are and how they're serving the poor and disadvantaged in Atlanta. And then Kimberly will be back also. So that class will also be going as well for another couple of weeks. All right. Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Ketty.
Thank you.
Wow.